And here we are, guys, on ESV Ohana, and down at the bottom right part of the map in the blue from the team Empire. He is more or less their ace in this situation. He is a Korean player, as you can see. His name is Empire.viOLet. And at the upper left part of the map in the red, it is our SlayerS player, our Protoss player taking 2 wins already today. It is Crank.
There we have it. So, Crank putting SlayerS off to a good start. Don't forget, their lineup is ridiculously deep. They have an amazing number of players that they can throw in at any time. They certainly have the fan favorites out there as well, like MMA, but a very solid lineup. And their Terran players are pretty well renowned. Boxer we've seen come in a couple of times in these Team League situations. He actually did play in Team Arena Challenge 1 on 1 game, I believe. But so, you know, they've got a very deep roster, but Empire's already throwing out their best player now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens here. I mean, it's gonna be a good PVZ, I think. SlayerS Crank is just so solid all around. That's why he's a good choice to put in immediately, right? But Violet is like a specialist in every matchup. He's like easily one of the rising stars in StarCraft 2 right now. He's won a decent amount of tournaments lately. He's done well in the tournaments that he didn't win.
Yep. Was our Fight Club champion for a little while as well.
He's a threat.
Which, guys, if you're curious, next Monday we'll be back on the air live for, it's going to be Liquid Tasia versus Creator Prime. So the reason why Marine King hasn't played yet, no, we're not just teasing his name and then not putting him in, is that the people who are running the tournaments in our department here wanted to avoid a team kill in a Fight Club like that. They want to have 2 teammates try and knock each other out right away.
Think that'd be great.
So, but here's the thing, is that after Liquid Tasia, no matter who wins, it will be Marine King Prime. So
okay.
There you go.
All right, cool. That'd be good. I actually wouldn't mind a team kill Fight Club at all, because then we get to really see, you know, 2 people that practice together all the time play, which is always a lot of fun, I think.
Good job, Violet. Crank got a little bit too far out with his pro, but he was able to react right in time and drop down the hatchery. Crank, of course, putting down Forge and then Nexus right afterwards, and everything looking pretty standard out of both these guys.
I need to learn to read Korean a little bit better. I was trying to like catch a little bit of what they were saying. I think they were talking about puzzle a little bit, but
another fine Protoss player from SlayerS.
Yeah. Absolutely.
One of the best in the world.
Yeah, for sure. SlayerS, you know, was the house of Terrans for so long, and now it seems like they're, you know, becoming a house of Protoss as well.
That's right.
Their Zergs, you know, have always been a little bit, I would say, of the weak part of their matchup. If you look at all 3 races on SlayerS, of course they do have
players like Koka.
Yeah, they have Koka, so they've got a little bit of talent, but nobody really stands out, right? True. You know, Min was someone people are really wondering about early on when he kind of showed up on the scene, but they didn't really get a whole lot done. But yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, Koka, when he gets back in form, I think is going to be a force to be reckoned with. But
I agree.
SlayerS overall a little bit weak on the Zerg side.
Yep, and we'll see here now as Violet decides to put down his 3rd hatch, no gas. So now the question is that how hard is he going to commit to Roaches? We've seen a lot of players recently open up with this and then play a little bit more defensively on Lings and Roaches, get to Infestor Tech very quickly on. So is he going to opt for that, or is he going to try and put on pressure right away? I like the placement of the Photon Cannon here for Crank as well, a little bit farther out of the way, and watches this ramp as well if it ever becomes an issue.
Yeah, now, just speaking from the Zerg perspective, this isn't a very good map for players to choose to go all in with Roachling, like we see on some other maps like Antigua Shipyard, things like that. This is a tough map to do that with, just because Protoss tend to take a very safe 3rd on this map. They've got a very defendable position at their natural expansion. So usually Zergs, you know, I mean, pretty much every Zerg at this point puts them in the position to be able to go all in on Roachling if they want to, right? But a lot of Zergs on this map, you know, you will see taking that quicker infestation pit and upgrades and going for Broodlords a little bit earlier here. So I think you're right. I think that's probably what we're going to see from Violet. From Crank, though, I feel like right now, at this point in the metagame, Protoss has a good amount more options than Zerg does. So we could see quite a bit out of him. It looks like it will be a bit of aggression, though. I can see you highlighting those non-taken gases.
That's right. That's what I pay attention to. So, and we'll see if, you know, Violet's in perfect position with his Overlords, of course, to catch this. It is a Robo coming up now, so expect a couple more gates here in just a second as well. So he will probably go down the Immortal and Sentry path, but he certainly has flexibility in what we've seen a lot of Protoss players do recently is go for that War Prism first, and that's a way that they choose to put on pressure at the beginning of the game. Kill a lot of drones, make sure that they can force field out ramps, things like that. The Sentry drops work really well.
On this map, Warp Prisms are so good. I mean, you drop them into the main, you can block off the ramp really easily a lot of times because Zergs will be focused on saving their third base. If you can sneak a Warp Prism in, you can do a ton of damage here.
And we'll see what Crank wants to do now. He's killed those, or one of the Overlords, does double gas afterwards, but that's a pretty late double gas. Not going to be able to take advantage of super high tech very early on. And I'm a little surprised he hasn't added on any more gateways. There we go. So gateways number 2, 3, and 4 coming up. Pretty standard stuff for him, though.
Yep, looks like he is going to expand after all. I mean, he'll have those rocks down fairly soon here, and he could put some pressure on, you know, ahead of that to sort of keep his opponent on his toes. But overall, he's doing okay. Look at this, 2 spores right away, 3 spores right away from SlayerS Crank. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting decision.
Especially after waiting on those gas and they were coming so late. And he can still see, if he clicks on them, that they're full of gas. So only now starting to mine those at the 8-minute mark. Clearly really pushing down the 6-gate path as we do see +1 armor coming up from that forge as well.
You know, it really appears that Violet is a little bit unsure about what SlayerS Crank is planning here. I don't think we'd be seeing 3 Spore Crawlers go down if he knew it was just a bunch of gateways and an Immortal on the way. But as things are, Violet's still going to be in an okay spot. That will be very good, yeah, for seeing observers like that. 1 hit from a Queen will probably take that out. 2 hits, actually, from a Queen. Yep, we'll take that out. So it's kind of nice to have that in that case, but overall, a little bit of a surprise there.
That's right. So now +1 weapons on the way. Roach speed just started with that macro hatch as well for Violet back on Crank's side of things. He does have enough forces. He could start to take this expansion if he wants. There it is. You know, and we'll be able to pretty safely do just that.
I think Violet saw that there were no 3rd and 4th gas for a while, and then he also saw that there was an upgrade going on the Forge and thought maybe it was going to be like Zealot Void Ray. So I could see that, you know, is a reason why he would put down those Spore Crawlers. But as things kind of stand right now, Crank is going to be moving in with a pretty strong Gateway Robo army. It's not quite that all-in variety, you know, see that really, really powerful 2-base Immortal Sentry all-in. But it is going to be something that he could choose to maybe put a little bit of pressure on. It looks like he's not really going to do that this time around, though. Yeah, he sees the army with the Observer. I think that's a good decision to just kind of pull back, play it safe.
Yeah, this is a lot of Observers out there. Invested in 3 of those before he decided to start producing those Immortals. In fact, he only has 2 Immortals out at this stage. Usually do see 1 or 2 more than that, but he's going to make sure that he doesn't get caught unawares by any sort of tech switches. He has complete control and vision of the map, and Violet is just really powering down this super heavy Roach style. Look at that, 16 more Roaches coming out. He's going to max out pretty quickly, going up to his 4th base as well.
Yeah, and if you notice, too, no other buildings coming up behind this, so he really does think that he has a chance to maybe just kind of overrun Crank in this particular situation. Sees that quicker 3rd, he sees that the army is a little bit lower, so I wonder if he thinks there's more upgrades going than there are. In fact, we know it's Colossi on the way.
That's right.
And if he hits at this exact timing, he could actually do a little bit of damage with this.
All right, well, trying to go through the pylon off to the right-hand side. It is being watched by a Photon Cannon. He's just going to try and brute force his way through it. Now actually pulls back after a little bit, but now he's going to open up that attack path around the back. Are there enough Immortals here to do the damage that he wants? Good force fields do keep a lot of forces at bay, but now the Roaches are starting to make the way around the right-hand side. 50 supply deficit for our Protoss player, but of course it's just going to come down to his control with his Immortals, and he loses one up at the front very early on. The other 2 haven't been touched yet, but the sentry count is starting to fall.
Yeah, you know, the Roach is not being controlled quite as well as it could be by Violet. Those ones in the middle did take out the Roach, but then they didn't target down any sentries, which they could have done. So overall, this push is probably not going to work out terribly well. Oh yeah, especially now with the Colossus out. Oh, but are there no energy? There's no energy on those sentries. That's a bit of a problem.
No, not at all. So unfortunately, the sentries are going to go down. Yeah, the Immortals, though, plus the Colossus, just way too much for those Roaches to bear. And looks like Violet is going to have to move back for a bit, but he is continuing to produce nothing but Roaches. No additional economy, no additional tech. There we go. Finally, a couple more drones being started.
This is a bit risky, though. You know, as we can see, he's still making a ton of Roaches, like you pointed out, but no other tech. At this point, if he tried to go for Broodlords or a Spire, you know, play to be able to take out those Colossi, things like that, it would be tough to get it out at a good time. And there's a little bit of Roach aggression at the natural here, and it looks like that's going to get forced away. Violet really trying to do everything he can here. Yeah. Oh, he does get in.
Yeah, he is able to make his way through the natural. Going to start bouncing his way into the main. He'll get a good read on what his opponent is doing. He'll do some damage. We'll see how much that's actually going to be. Looks like he's going to go after a few workers for now. Already Stalkers and a couple of Immortals being sent in to go ahead and deal with that, but a few workers did go down.
Yep, and he does have Burrow as well, so he'll need to have some observers there to be able to see those units.
That's right.
Violet, some nice micro there.
And looks like he does burrow, jumps back up, and unfortunately the Immortal is there to greet him once again. A couple more roaches do go down. 11 workers have been killed, though. Unfortunately, because of the way that he stopped at about 62 workers, he's still at an overall economic deficit, however.
Well, I'm wondering where these observers are, man. I mean, he's got 3 out on the map right now. Where are they? They just took that long to get back, it looks like.
Yeah, there they are. Well, one's finally going to make its way back, and these roaches will die. Violet not going to be able to save those, unfortunately. How many workers did he kill overall? 12. Still not enough, though, of course, to justify the huge amount of resources he put into this roach attack, which really didn't do all that much damage.
Yeah, I mean, he's still making roaches and lings there now, finally putting the Spire down. But if he doesn't kill off any of the Colossi, if he doesn't thin the Colossi count in the very near future here, Violet's just not going to be able to stand up to the army that Crank has. So this is a very, very delicate situation right now for a Zerg player. His tech is pretty far behind because he put a lot into Roach Ling. And he's pulling back now. Wow, he's just going to have to try to play a little bit more defensive. But this is a rough situation right now for Violet to be in.
That's right. So that Spire's only about halfway finished, a little bit under that, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Crank, on the other hand, he's got a ton of resources banked up. He's going to pretty high tech. He was a little slow to put down the Twilight Council, unfortunately, in the midst of all that action. So he is researching +1 shields just so he can research, well, anything out of that forge until the Twilight Council gets done and he gets access to his higher tier upgrades.
Yep. Very important to be able to just use it, you know?
Yep, that is true. Yep. So, and if he decides to move over to Archons eventually, we'll benefit those. It's kind of an underrated upgrade.
Oh, look at this. The Roach is being kind of trapped there.
That's right. You know, a lot of these Stalkers going to go down up at the front, and a couple of the Colossi may fall as well. One goes down. Will he be able to get a second? If he gets a second, it won't be the worst thing in the world, but if he doesn't, okay, he does get 2 Colossi, and that's certainly going to help him a little bit. Not going to be able to get any of the Immortals on the way out, though, and will lose a considerable amount of supply.
Yeah, the sandwiching that Crank tried to do didn't end up working as well as he kind of hoped. I think in this case he is getting Blink and another upgrade for his weapons on the way and another Colossus. But right now Crank is able to kind of push him around the map as he chooses, trying to keep that 4th base alive and maybe from being discovered. Oh, but the Roaches do see it.
Yeah, that's right. So not really going to be able to get too much done. Pick off the probe, adding a little bit of insult to injury there, as the 4th base, as you mentioned, does get scouted. But as we can see, just more roaches coming up now for Violet. There, finally, 9 Corruptors now on the way. So 9 Corruptors making their way out. No, I don't believe there's an infestation pit, though.
Yeah, and he hasn't started the Greater Spire either, so I mean, well, obviously he can't if he doesn't have the infestation. But so he's just going to try to go for Roach Corruptor.
Right, because otherwise we're looking at about, what, something like 50 seconds for the infestation pit to come up, then 100 for Hive, then 100 for Greater Spire on top of that, then Corruptor build time, and then another 34 seconds for Broodlords.
Oh, this could be a little bit dangerous for Crank here. He does have an okay concave, but that's a lot of roaches. Oh, the pathing!
Oh,
the pathing for those roaches caused him to split up to try to go around it. That did not work very well at all for Violet.
Nope, that's actually just horrible for him now.
Yeah,
he loses most of his roaches on the way out. This hatchery is getting very, very low, down to less than 100 supply, and it is going to fall.
Yeah, things just looking really good for SlayerS Crank. I mean, this is such a good illustration. This game is a great illustration of why you need to be very, very decisive about whether or not you can kill a player with Roach Ling all in, because Violet is showing us right now that it's nearly impossible to tech out of it if you wait too long. Yeah, he does have some Corruptors, but look at all those Stalkers. There's so many Stalkers that they can't even really get into the fight. Could be a little bit better with the Colossus Micro, but I think it's not even going to matter. Yeah.
And he is actually going to lose all of the Colossi, but he has nothing to deal with the Stalkers on the ground. There's the GG, and Crank has just taken his 3rd game in a row, defeating Violet, no less.
Wow, and with Violet down, that's going to put Empire in a really tough situation here.